some massive cash tournaments have been happening in Pokemon Champions, and so the format has also been shifting. Now, last time we discussed how Garchomp started rising, we discussed Mega Delphox being included in a lot of pros teams, we saw Mousehold also making some major moves, and Aerodactyl went on a major rampage. But did all of these trends stick? As with any good analysis, the chosen data is going to affect the results you get, and so this is what I've chosen to use. Now, the first thing we want to check is, did the trends from 3 days ago actually stick? And firstly, Mega Delphox, while it has been doing well still and it's definitely not gone, it hasn't really taken over in any major way either. It's part of some Floette balance teams and it's part of some just Mega Delphox in general teams, but it's not this all-encompassing force. Beyond that, Mousehold, while still being a solid support and still getting some important top cuts, also isn't taking over Sinistcha's spot as the major redirector. However, the Aerodactyl trend is in full force. This thing is everywhere. It is now the major tailwind setter, and it is also ruining a lot of games with rock slide flinches. This is why I would say the Delphox and Mousehold trends, while still real and topping here and there, they're not really sticking as a big deal. Meanwhile, the Aerodactyl trend, this one is solidified for sure in my opinion. The next trend is Bascu Legion Male. Now, don't get me wrong, day one, Bascu Legion Male was already a real threat. It was literally on the first team I built. I thought it was crazy in Reg H, and I figured it's gonna be crazy right now. However, as the days progressed, Bascu Legion Male stopped being as omnipresent. I guess part of it is maybe like the Charizard Y Sun teams. While technically Bascu Legion can still one-shot Charizard Y in Sun, the fact that the Sun is removing like 75% of your kit is still a little awkward. If they get Tailwind up, they can Solar Beam the hell out of you, and you're really only using it as like a late game last respect sweeper at that point. While that's still strong, and you know, it's a major reason I was playing it regardless of Sun, it did feel like it stopped being the main Choice Scarf user. There were a lot of people trying out Choice Scarf Rotom, and whenever people were looking for a fast physical attacker that could also punish Incineroar, it was usually gonna be Sneasler. However, in these latest tournaments, you will notice that Bascu Legion is back on the rise. Partially because some people maybe started talking about Charizard Y being a fraud, which I don't think is fully true. I think that's some people trying to rage bait on Twitter. But on the other hand, it is true that there was a lot of Charizard Y hate actually. There were a lot of people starting to spam Rock Slide, whether on their Garchomp, maybe on their Aerodactyls. And so Zard Y actually started hurting a little bit. Maybe that then in turn made Bascu Legion better again, because now you get to use its full kit rather than just last respects or trying to outspeed Charizard without a Tailwind. Whatever the reason may be, Bascu Legion is back on top, baby, and it is everywhere. Next up, we have this new trend, and I think this one is actually going kind of under the radar. People aren't really talking about it too much, but when you check out the top cuts or the highest records of some of these very big tournaments, there's always one or two of this brand new team. It is Mega Frostlass with King Gambit, and then very often a combination of a Fire, Water, Grass core. And on some of the teams, one of the three is sometimes dropped, but in general, this is like the trend we are seeing emerging around these months. I have listed some of the very high placing teams on screen here. You can see, like literally right there, we have Mega Frostlass, Incin, King Gambit with a Whimsicott and a Palafin. Fire, Water, Grass, Frostlass, King Gambit. Then we have Frostlass with Palafin, King Gambit, Arcanine, Hisui, Sinistcha. Again, Frostlass King Gambit with a Fire, Water, Grass core. Frostlass with Serena, with King Gambit, with Sneasler, with Primarina and Talonflame. That's literally, once again, Frostlass King Gambit, Fire, Water, Grass core. Like, this is coming back again and again and again, and also often a Sneasler on there. So while the optimized version of this team maybe hasn't been found yet, this idea of a team is gradually taking shape. And so you have to be prepared for it, because even though there's no major YouTube videos about it with big faces and clickbait and whatever, it looks to be a very, very real team. I will also have a rental for one of them at the end of the video. And of course, if you're a Mega Frostlass fan, this is your moment. You know, a lot of people were trying to do Mega Frostlass stuff with maybe a very heavy focus on snow, but it looks like maybe the best version is going to be a type of balance team that then just uses Mega Frostlass's power. The next hot trend, of course, is subscribing to this channel. Be sure to do that. I'm giving you the latest and greatest news in Pokemon Champions, and so it would be really appreciated. Another trend is Floette doing well. And now you might think, what do you mean? What do you mean? Like, Floette Floette was always doing well, right? Well, there were quite some people who were in the 5 stages of grief when it comes to this Pokemon. When it was first coming onto the scene, it was like, oh my god, it is so broken, oh, this is crazy. But then people started going, oh, actually, it's not that broken. There's actually a lot of tools that stop it. Oh, actually, it's quite overrated. And so while we started with anger, then we went to bargaining, then we went to depression, now we are kind of entering the state of acceptance. In the Champions Cup, the top 4 was all Floette teams. In the finals of the Alpenzee Tour, it was a Floette mirror. And all over these big money prize pool events that I've listed before, Floette is absolutely dominating. That doesn't mean it's unbeatable, of course. There are mons that really counter it. I think Mega Glimmora is kind of underrated still. And hell, even Scizor can take it out with a boosted bullet punch. But it is definitely the team to beat as of now. Which brings us to an interesting question. Has Floette actually been solved? After all, we can sit here and go, oh, Floette is so broken, it's so powerful, but like, has the best version of Floette even been found yet? If you check out Floette sets, we can see that Calm Mind Floette seems to be the choice people are going for. It's not that Floette needs Calm Mind to set up, like it already does damage without a Calm Mind setup, it's just that when it gets set up, it starts one-hit KOing everything. But beyond that part of its kit, Calm Mind, Protect, it has a bunch of moves it kind of wants to click, and not enough room to click all of them. There's Moonblast, Dazzling Gleam, and Draining Kiss as like the 3 premier moves it wants to click without having the room to fit all 3 of them. It seems right now the most popular combination is Moonblast Dazzling Gleam across all these topping teams. But Draining Kiss is very real. The ability to get hit by a Dire Claw, go down to 20%, click Draining Kiss and be back at like 100 is crazy. It's just that you don't always have the time to set up a Calm Mind, and without it, Draining Kiss doesn't do that much damage. So you would much rather have the option to click Moonblast and instantly do a bunch of damage, but you also would like to be able to click Dazzling Gleam when Calm Mind is already set up, because you can then nuke the entire field. And so you're constantly wondering like, oh, does my team need like these 2 or these 2? And that makes it very interesting to me. I am wondering if there's going to be shifts as far as Floette sets go as the meta progresses. Finally, I also still think that there is a world where we see a different Floette set. Not one that needs to just sit there and play balance with Calm Mind, but one that just says, fuck it, I'm gonna start clicking Light of Ruin. If you have played Pokemon VGC before Champions, you would know that Raging Bolt balance kind of feels like Floette balance. It was a very strong centerpiece that could set up and then start taking KOs, but that means you would also know that there was a point where Raging Bolt balance stopped setting up its Raging Bolt, just didn't click Calm Mind, and just started clicking big attacks instantly. Not all of them did, but there were versions like that, and so I'm wondering if we're going to start seeing Floettes that just don't bother setting up and just start clicking, whether it's Moonblast Dazzling, maybe with Fake Tears from Whimsicott, maybe with Helping Hand from Incineroar, or just clicking Light of Ruin and saying goodbye. This is something to watch out for. Next we have the secret tech, and the secret tech is Bugmont. Part 2. You see, there's these really good players, like known players, with extremely good records in these tournaments that for some reason are playing Kleavor and Scizor. Now, normally, if you know, just a player is playing a weird mon once, you don't really think much of it. You're like, whatever, you know, they're playing a weird mon, whatever. You're not looking at it. But when it's multiple in a short span of time, and some of these players are like extremely known, they're known to be good, that's when I start paying attention. It doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be a big deal, but it is possible that certain play groups are testing certain ideas. So when I saw this, again, just in 3 days, 4 good players, some of them very known, playing the same mon or the same type of mon that kind of is being underrated, no one is really looking at, again, just something to keep in mind. Next, I pose a question. Where is Trick Room? I've posed the same question in my previous meta-analysis, and here I am once again. That's an iCarly lyric. If we are going to go to a format that is extremely Floette balance based while simultaneously also being Hyper Offense Charizard type based, it would stand to reason that a type of Trick Room team is going to rise up, as this has happened in previous formats a ton. And for some reason, so far, it just has not. Of course, we can all give reasons why. We can always, after the fact go, oh, it's so obvious, of course, it's because of A, B, and C. But I am skeptical. I still believe there is some type of Trick Room team just waiting to come out. The most obvious one, of course, being some kind of Sun Room. Farigiraf, Torkoal, Venusaur, Incin, all of these mons are just made for each other, and versions of it have done well in multiple formats in the past. So far, while it isn't fully gone, some have topped, we've just not seen a super dominant run just yet, and I think we're due for one. Now let's get to the rentals. First of all, we have the winner of the Alpensee Anniversary Tour. We have a Floette balance team with a Bascu Legion. Yes, the Bascu Legion threat is back, and if you want to utilize it, it's right here. Next up, in that Champions Cup, a Trick Room team did in fact do very well, and yes, it was with Farigiraf and Torkoal. So if you are a Trick Room fan, go right ahead, you can copy it. Psycho R&R was kind enough to share their replica, and so you can try out a team for yourself. Now, last meta-analysis, I did show you a lot of Floette teams, and I'm sorry for that. Maybe you really wanted something else, so here we have something else. We have the Charizard Sun team from Suika that has been doing incredibly well on the Japanese side, now doing incredibly well in the Alpensee Tour, being piloted by Sanvi, a very well-known good player, and they even included tweets calling Charizard Y mid are low-quality rage bait. So yeah, we still have Charizard Y believers. Up next, here is a recreation of that Frostlass King Gambit type of balance team that I spoke of earlier, and the replica was made by Capital Underdogs Alessio, a multi-topping player, so these spreads are going to be pretty solid. And I have to tell you, this guy's VP is running incredibly low, so the fact that he did this for you, the fact that he spent his last few VPs just to give you a rental, I mean, let's all thank Alessio right now. Finally, I managed to grab a pro using Scizor, and I said, man, please, give me the Scizor rental. You ran Scizor to a high score in one of these tours, 10-3, solid record, and of course he said, don't ask me what anything on there does, because I have no clue. The team isn't that good. That being said, if you are a Mega Scizor fan, you have a rental right now made by a pro player with insane amounts of tops who actually also won Worlds in the senior division years ago. But of course, they've also been dominating Masters the past years. As always, I will keep you updated with any new trends, so be sure to stay subscribed for that. I will see you soon. Ciao.